Dispatch.
We're getting medical on the way, emergency.
This is what happens when a pursuit goes bad.
22 miles from Tusculum to Johnson City. At nearly midnight on December 3rd, police records show a Tusculum police officer clocked a driver with no visible tags going 104 miles an hour down 11E. And that's when the chase began.
That vehicle's on the old Jonesboro Highway now, going toward Johnson City. They terminated 120. Are they still pursuing?
Tusculum Police Chief Danny Green would later join the initial officer in pursuit of the suspect, Christian Morrow, at speeds greater than 100 miles per hour. As Eric Stanton, a criminal justice professor at Northeast State, tells us,
a vehicle's a weapon. It's a loaded weapon. So now you got the person being pursued, driving down the road, and two vehicles pursuing that individual. So now we have three loaded weapons driving down the road.
Police records show Morrow led both officers on a high-speed chase down 11E, then on narrow roads into downtown Jonesboro on Main Street, and back onto 11E, where the chase would ultimately end in Johnson City, in a crash on West Market. The report states Chief Green and the officer lost sight of Morrow briefly before spotting him again just minutes before the crash.
Vehicles wrecked in front of Sonic.
Police records show Morrow lost control and crashed into A Pearson, whose car was thrown off the road.
42, we ain't got no response.
From the driver?
10-14 medical.
We're getting medical on the way, emergency.
Morrow would survive with injuries. A was killed on impact.
They were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And unfortunately, now you have an innocent victim that has died as a result of a pursuit.
Who was A Pearson? At just 22 years old, a recent ETSU graduate, friends say A was crafting a vibrant life.
I called them the phenomenal A Pearson for a reason. Absolutely nobody like them in this world.
Mary Robinson, a co-worker of A's at the Johnson City Library, describes A as the friend she could always count on.
As a human being, one of the best that I've ever known and will likely ever know.
Close friend Shelby Tyler agrees.
What do you do at a funeral for someone who's that young? Like, they had their whole life ahead of them. And, like, they had so much left to say and do when, like, they had all of these ideas. And
A was an artist in many ways, using primarily film to showcase the world in ways friends said were beautiful and meaningful. Shara Lange, A's film professor at ETSU.
Kind, respectful, hardworking, really serious filmmaker. And just, it's been a huge loss for us. We really adored A.
A's senior year's capstone project, now a time capsule, forever preserving A's talent, even starring A's friends.
And I'll always be a phone call away, and you have to promise to keep him company.
A was a member of the LGBTQ community, whose gender identity was non-binary. They used film to show we all have more in common than our differences.
One of the reasons that A was such an important filmmaker was that A had a real sense of place. So A was really an important voice in East Tennessee, doing things about A's community, A's queer community, that other filmmakers weren't doing.
A was a rising star threatening to eclipse the sun.
A 22-mile chase ends with the death of a 22-year-old victim. Did Tusculum police violate policy? Tusculum's pursuit policy is broad. It mentions pursuit in the case of serious felonies, but adds the following: if public safety is seriously endangered.
I'm not one who thinks we should not engage, police should not engage in pursuits, but I think they need to be restricted. And my line in the sand is a violent crime.
Dr. Jeffrey Alpert is an expert on police pursuit policy, authoring dozens of reports and books on the topic for the past 30 years.
What are the charges? I have no idea. What are his charges? Did he say? Their charges will be at least evading at this time, unknown on further.
Do we know what their charges are? Evading right now is what they have on it.
Morrow was not suspected of a violent felony, according to police reports. Alpert says chases like this one should never happen to begin with.
What is created is a much riskier situation than the one they dealt with in the beginning.
It's what our expert sources call the gold standard, only pursuing in the case of a violent felony.
What crime, what violent crime did this person commit? And the answer is none. It's speeding, it's a safety violation. So the best thing you can do is get this person to slow down, not speed up.
They did not violate policy and procedures based on the way it's written at their department, but a life was lost. And so they need to go back and look at their policies to try and prevent something like this from happening again.
Several local police departments across East Tennessee do have much stricter pursuit policies. For example, Johnson City, Jonesboro, and Elizabethton police departments all include this exact line in their policy. Only situations involving violent felony acts will allow an officer to be involved in a pursuit.
None of those three departments would have allowed their officers to pursue based on what Tusculum had at that time.
Unpacking this further, we requested pursuit policies from many local police departments. Those who follow this gold standard of only allowing a pursuit in the case of a violent felony are listed on the left. Those on the right do not, which means there is more room for interpretation.
It's a very hard decision to make, and we have to understand these officers are human. They had to make split-second decisions on whether or not to continue this pursuit or not.
And I think that's where there has to be a policy, there has to be training, there has to be good supervision and accountability.
Throughout this investigation, News Channel 11 has reached out to the Tusculum Police Department multiple times for an interview. City Attorney Alex Chestnut responded, saying, "Due to ongoing investigations and pending criminal charges, we have to respectfully decline. It is imperative that any investigation and subsequent charges fully play out prior to any further information being released." We also requested dash cam footage from the police pursuit. Chestnut said the cameras on both police vehicles were not working at the time of the chase. Just how rare of an occurrence was A. Pearson's tragic death?
By the end of today, at least one more person is going to die as a result of a pursuit.
Alpert was referring to national statistics on police pursuit fatalities. Closer to home, Tennessee Highway Patrol reports from 2018 through this month of 2022, at least 1,044 police pursuits have ended with a crash. 53 were fatal.
For every second and minute that pursuit continues, there's more danger to the public. More and more risk goes up every second, every minute.
We obtained police records from every fatal police pursuit in Tennessee last year. Since the beginning of 2021, 28 people have been killed as a result of police pursuits. Of those, 13 were victims not involved in the chase. The other 15, drivers of the fleeing vehicles. From these reports, the driver's average age was in their 20s. 88% were men. National statistics on fatal police pursuits show about 1/3 of the people who die are innocent victims. People like A. Pearson, those close to the victims searching for answers.
Why did the chase go on for that long? Or why did it even have to happen at all?
Something has to change. There was absolutely no reason that any of it had to happen. Not at all. Policy changes need to be put into place so it doesn't happen again. You know, these people need to be held responsible. It's just, I think we're all kind of like, we're a little skeptical about anything that's actually going to happen.
Our policy experts say not enough law enforcement agencies have adopted gold standard pursuit policies.
Hopefully, in this situation, positive things can come about because of it. Maybe policies changed, maybe additional training, maybe even laws changed in this state. So hopefully something positive will come out of this, because otherwise it's a very negative and tragic situation.
Law change has been inspired in Tennessee in the past as a result of fatal accidents involving police. The Vanessa K Free Law, enacted in 2006 after the Kingsport native died in Chattanooga. She was a passenger in a car that was hit by an officer who was trying to get to a scene. The law spelled out in Tennessee Highway Patrol's pursuit policy requires training on operating vehicles in emergencies and training to respond to other drivers on the road. And as long as tragic and avoidable deaths of innocent people continue, so will lawsuits by their families.
There'll be a police procedures lawsuit, there'll be a failure to train, depending on who the officer is, negligent hiring, all sorts of things that come into it, failure to supervise.
In 1994's Haynes v. Hamilton County, the Tennessee Supreme Court decided an officer may be liable for injuries to others as a result of a pursuit. Cited here in Washington County's pursuit policy, the Supreme Court stated when it comes to continuing a pursuit, the risk of injury to innocent third parties should be weighed against the interest in apprehending suspects.
You don't think clearly. This is an adrenaline dump. This is a high level of adrenaline. It's an exciting situation.
Our two expert sources say when faced with the choice to pursue or not, sometimes the cost of the chase is simply too high, and officers should rarely have to make that decision.
And that's why these restrictive policies are far better for everyone.
Small choices could have prevented this from happening. And it's infuriating. You know, one of my best friends is gone because of the choices other people made.
Court records show Christian Morrow has not yet been charged with anything directly related to A. Pearson's death. However, after the crash, he was booked into the Greene County Jail on other charges. He's set to go before a judge again at the end of March. The Tennessee Highway Patrol tells us their criminal investigation into this police pursuit is ongoing. For News Channel 11, I'm Ashley Sharp.